Welcome back to another episode of Growing Up with Guinea, expert chats on childhood development and diversity. Today, we are diving deep into the beautiful and sometimes messy world of parent child bonds. Joining us today to share her insights and practical tips is Kavita Yadav, a counseling psychologist and a parenting coach. Welcome, Kavita.
Hi Shweta, nice to be here. Thank you so much.
We're excited to have you. As parents, we all know the importance of a strong bond with our children. But in our busy lives, it can be easy to feel like we are constantly battling screen time, sibling squabbles, and just the general chaos of everyday life. Today, we are hoping to shed some light on how we can nurture those precious connections even amidst the chaos. Um, so, before we dive in, Kavita, can you share a quick personal anecdote or story about when you experienced the power of a strong parent child bond in your own life?
Okay, so yes, you rightly mentioned about the chaotic side of it. So when I experienced was Shweta, like I was a full-time working mom, right? When my first child was born. So when my second child was on the way, that time I quit. And when my girls started coming to me and sharing every little bit of their side of the story, what happened in school, what did they say, what did their friends do, what did teachers share, and when that sharing started happening between us, that's when I realized the strength of this parent child bond out there. So, and that is one of the very important factor to have open communication, that trust in that relationship.
Right. In my case, so my son now is 8. But over the years, there are many things. I mean that he's experienced in terms of how he perceives himself, how he other people perceive him. When people look at him, they may have questions about what happened to your hand because he was born with a condition called radial club hand. So even for me, this whole point that you shared, that how the sharing happens, that happens only if the child feels comfortable with the bond that they have with you, is something
Right.
that I've experienced myself. um, but let's go further and know more about you, Kavita. Can you share a bit about your background and what sparked your passion for helping parents build strong bonds with their children?
Right, Shweta. So, thank you for asking that question, that what initiated this journey. So, as I told you, I was a full-time working professional. I was into corporate and HR. So, when my first daughter was born in 2003, I was still full-time working mom. And I used to come back in the evening, and that mom guilt, of course, used to hit me because that I'm missing out on the important development stages of my child. And I used to be after her to know what happened during the day and everything. But you understand, evening time for kids is like they want to go out, they want to go to the park, they want to be with their friends and just enjoy. And me after her life sharing things with me, so that was where I started feeling that no, there's something I miss which I'm not doing correct as a mother. And then it so happened that I was on family way with my second daughter, and the company in which I was working lastly was in Manesar. It's a place near Gurgaon where I reside. It shifted to Noida. And in that year, 2008, 2009, there were no metros connectivity also there. So I thought, boss, what a right timing. Let me put up my corporate boots and be with my daughters. And that's the period, Shweta, when I started realizing that it's not only giving birth to these children that we become parents. We really need to be in their lives, understand them, and play around with them and give them that safe, secure environment. And that was the time when I also had some time to interact with other mothers while I used to go to the bus stop to pick my daughters back from the school, and I started having those interactions. And that's where I realized that there's something called parenting. And that's when I deep dived into it, and my education in psychology also started pulling me back. And that's how I started my journey as a psychologist and a parenting coach.
Right, and that's a very interesting journey, Kavita. And I think for a lot of us, the trigger comes when we become parents, and then the journey starts. Then, so with our son, I mean, he was very shocked to hear when we said to him that you are 8 years old, but you that we are also 8 years old as parents, and he was really surprised because he thought we're like as if we are like experienced and born to do this, and we had to tell him no, just when you were born, we were born as parents. So it's a journey that we're taking on together. And in the conversation with parents also, it's a learning every day as to how to help the child best and how to help take them, flight of, the work that they do in their uh, friends and family circle. For example, yesterday in our workshops, craft workshops, end with a tagline called "Being different is okay." And by the end of it, the child who was 5, the parents spoke to the child and said, do you know now what do you need to say about your shiny tooth? Because this child has had a different kind of tooth, so was facing ridicule from people in the class. And so the workshop itself have parents and child have that conversation right in front of us. Um, so I mean, that also brought forth the idea of the challenges that parents face while they're helping their child be a part of the society where they're growing. But let me move to the next question, which is that in your experience, what are some of the biggest challenges that parents face today when it comes to building strong bonds with their children?
Right, Shweta, and I was so happy to hear when you told your son that we are also 8 years old as parents. So that should it's so beautiful. And coming back to your question of the biggest challenges faced by parents, let's understand that every parent, every family has their own set of challenges. But some of the common challenges, if I have to list out, is like first and foremost that comes to my mind is busy schedule of parents. And why I say this is because today most of the parents, both the parents are working and are having nuclear setups. So it comes up as a highly demanding to juggle between their work schedules, household chores, and the other responsibilities which they have to cater out there. And parents are left with limited time for those meaningful interactions with their children. So, this somewhere certainly makes it difficult and challenging to establish and maintain that strong parent child emotional connection. And this time challenge, this busy schedule, it further kind of leads to power struggles, parental burnout, Shweta, when parents try to kind of compete with screen time of their children out there and to grab their attention. Therefore, technology and screen time is another biggest challenge that comes across while parenting and bringing up the children. And today's parents are also like struggling to find that work life balance because both of them are working, and in bringing that harmony to have that quality time spent with their children, to have that bonding and to have such activities around them. And this struggles adds on to the parental guilt. As I was talking to you about my own mom guilt, so guilt is a very important factor that somewhere comes into picture into parenting, and that adds on to the pressure. So, and because of this pressure, another challenge which is coming to my mind is parents think that they need to spend most of the time with their children to have that strong bond, and they're lacking into it. So it starts taking a toll on their own mental health, emotional wellness, and issues such as anxiety, anger, depression. It further interferes with the parents' ability to connect with their children on an at an emotional level. And these are some of the important basic challenges that come across, and because of this limited time, parenting guilt, all of it, communication barriers also come in between. So these are few of the things that are coming to my mind right now when you ask that question.
Right. Thank you, Kavita, for sharing all this. And I'm sure many parents, who are listening to this would relate to all that you've said. And maybe I think additional challenge which is linked with all that you've said is also, this whole thing of now the world is ever changing, and it's actually, a lot of things are coming into it at a very, very fast speed. Whether it's new apps, whether it is new videos, new knowledge spaces, a lot is happening, a lot is changing, and all of us have grown up in a different generation. Although we're catching up, child is catching up, and we are catching up too, and that whole struggle of catching up continues. And so sometimes it can be really hard for people to, especially parents, for them to see, okay, where do I go for this knowledge? Where do I go with my query? Who do I ask? Who is authentic? Who would have really knowledge based and experiential answers and not just opinions? So For example, I mean, that was one of the reasons why Guinea's Planet also started this audio series called The Confident Parent. We have a page on LinkedIn now on it, and it also is there in our YouTube channel. And the whole idea is this, that we understand that parents may not have necessarily, let's say, 30 minutes to watch a video all the time. They may not have uh, time to read a very heavy academic paper. But can we give them something which is drawn from all these spaces but said in a simple language? And it's just 1 minute, 2 minute bites that they can come back to and read more if they want to. So for parents also, I think paucity of time, balancing everything, and then trying to find this knowledge at one place is a challenging task. Um, let's get to other parts of helping parents with knowledge. You've worked in diverse backgrounds. So can you suggest how children can interact or build bond with children of different backgrounds or cultures? Because this is also a context in which parenting happens. Children are going into different spaces, they are experiencing diversity. So how can children also build bonds of with other people from different backgrounds?
Hmm. So I'm happy that you asked this question, Shweta. You touched upon this point of building bond with children from different backgrounds and cultures, because it is not only enriching but also it fosters understanding, empathy, and appreciation between children. So few ways that I can think of is like, first it could be cultural exchange activities, because I've worked with NGOs and schools and in my personal level also. So cultural exchange activities could be like beautifully done not only at school levels, but parents and societies in which they reside, they can also help bring in such activities where children can share aspects of their own cultural with other children around. It can include like some playing some traditional games, music and dance performance from different culture and background. And why not having a buffet laid around with different kind of foods tasting out there for children to experience the different cultures. Different art and craft activities can be included and inspired to be a part of it. So that is one. And another, like children can also be encouraged to share stories, traditional stories from their backgrounds with other children. This can be done in the form of storytelling session, and I'm sure Guinness Planet does that a lot, the storytelling sessions out there, where children are kind of or elders around take chances and turns to share their folk tales and expose children to little anecdotes that highlight the different cultural heritage out there. Another point could be to help children understand the different cultural backgrounds is like, inside of such activities, storytelling and cultural exchanges, opportunities can be created where children learn like basic phrases and greetings, how to greet each other in different in form of different cultural out there. That is such a beautiful way where children learn one step more and have those interactive interactions with each other, and it helps build that bond between children. So these are few of the ways which I can think of in which children can connect with each other and understand about each other's cultural and diverse backgrounds.
Right. And all in all, of course, I mean, what we're saying is that be within the diverse backgrounds to make sure that you know, if you're exposed to diversity, you can't avoid it. And if you can't avoid it, then you learn to live with it. You actually learn to celebrate it and grow with it. And then you use all the methods that you just mentioned to, make this whole process smoother and more facilitative. So, for example, like you said, on Guinea's Planet, we focus a lot on stories. So, for example, the last book, Kuch Alag Si Guinea, focused more on how Guinea looked different and how that impacted her view of herself and how she felt sometimes uncomfortable going into different families. She's an 8-year old in that story. But the next storybook that's coming up is Guinea Ki Gargar, where she's going into class 1. So it's like going back uh, to her class, grade 1, when she's entering a school, and everybody is going to be new for her. So how does she prepare, plan, adjust with this? not much planning helps her. But when she's into it, then what happens and how does the day go? So there are a lot of ways of using stories, like you said, using of stories becomes very, very interesting. Uh, now,
Right. Shweta, I would just
and
like to add on one more
yeah,
thing here, right? So let's make this diverse thing very normal for our children as they're growing up. It's not something that to be looked at, oh, this is different from me, or he or she is different from me. Let it be so natural and inclusive for our children. That will help them grow better.
exactly, because everybody is different. We all are similar in one fact that we all are going to be different from each other, and that's okay. Uh, so earlier you had, in one of the challenges you'd already listed, the screen time, all these things. So we know that many parents struggle with balancing technology and screen time while building quality connections. So do you have any specific tips or strategies for parents in this situation?
As you mentioned, like we've discussed before also about this, and I totally agree that this is a real struggle and challenge in today's time. So, what comes to my mind first and foremost is to help parents navigate this balance more effectively is to set clear boundaries, Shweta. Now, these boundaries should not only be meant for children only, it should be for the entire family to make it inclusive. So, establishing clear rules and limits around screen time and technology use at your home. This may include like setting up specific time limits for recreational screen time other than the academic use, as we all know, it is so required nowadays. And then designated screen free zones could be created in home, such as during meal times or before going to bed or immediately after waking up. It has become a habit for everyone, even parents. सबसे पहले they look up at the screen, that what is there on my phone. So that those specific screen free times and zones can be created. And to support children, you as parents, like we as parents, and maybe other elders in the family, we will have to model healthy screen building habits for our children. So we just can't dictate to them कि आपको ये करना है. We have to role model it for them first. Another way that could be like that, instead of viewing technology as a barrier to connection, because nowadays it is so much part and parcel of our life, this technology, let's find ways to use it as a tool for bonding with our own children, and let's explore ways to enjoy technology together. It could be like playing games together on that laptop or iPad that you have at home, and you can listen to podcasts and like watching documentaries together, movies together. Of course, all of this needs to be done keeping the development age and stage of your child in mind. But let's use technology to facilitate shared interest and activities, right? And we can also have tech free conversations. Let's encourage playing outside more rather than indoor activities. Let's encourage more of creative activities around us without the use of technology. It is very this thing to say that I find parents opening those YouTube videos for their children and asking them to be creative. What are you doing? You're again encouraging them to be on screen. So my advice would be, give them papers, scissors, gums and everything to be creative, but not with screen, away from screen. You also participate with your children. So you have to really be present in their life if you want this screen free thing to happen. And then you, if you have more than one child, Shweta, at home, I would really encourage parents to schedule that one-to-one time spending with each child, together also but separately also with each child, to understand what is happening in their lives and to be more connected with each child together. So these are some of the tips which I would like to share with parents out here and get into power struggles over this screen time with their children.
Right. Thank you, Kavita. And of course, this is one of the very tough things that's happening these days. I mean, like I said in the question as well. And all the tips, I mean, I believe this whole thing of becoming a role model and having family rules, obviously, these are very, very important. sometimes very hard to be a role model. I think that's one of the toughest parts of being a parent, that you're trying to learn and you're trying to be a role model at the same time. And I hope parents are able to take through some of these tips into their everyday life. Um, so I want to now go back to the next thing, which is, we are focusing on parent-child bond. What are what are the common misconceptions that parents might have about building strong bonds with their children?
Misconceptions. Interesting question, Shweta. So one of the most common misconception is that spending more time with my child automatically will lead to stronger bonds, right? But it doesn't happen that way. What is more important when you are with your child is that quality of time and the interaction that you're having with your children during that time, that truly matters, and it helps foster strong bonds with your children. So it's not that कि I've spent 1 hour with my child, I spend 1 hour with my child daily, but what are you doing in that 1 hour? That matters. So that is the biggest misconception which I find. And another misconception is like that when you become parents, everything and anything should start revolving around children only. So there are still a great number of parents out there who underestimate, Shweta, the importance of prioritizing their own well-being and self-care, and when it comes to building strong bonds with their children, so they stand last in the queue. But what they do in all this is they somehow somewhere get into the trap of adopting that permissive parenting style, thinking that it makes them that good parents in the eyes of their children, and it helps them create that bond stronger. Whereas it is all about balancing between children and their own well-being, be it be emotional, be it be physical or mental. So parents also need to understand and make space for their own recreations and well-beings, because once they are healthy, they will be better able to connect better with their children and understand them. Another misconception that I see in my practice as a psychologist and parenting coach is, Shweta, that working with teens and parents is that they think it's too late now. So if parents mistakenly believe that if they haven't built a relationship or a bond with their children from an early age, so it's too late now, nothing can happen, and they kind of like give up. So however, it's never too late to work on strengthening that parent-child relationship. Let's always understand and remember it. Even it requires patience, forgiveness, your willingness to learn and move ahead, and have that what is the right word coming to me is that have that persistence to be with your child and make that bond stronger by doing away with your own patterns and core beliefs out there. That is very important.
Right. So those were, coming from your experience and work with parents, some of these are very, very interesting and eye-opening as well. And I hope parents listening to this conversation are able to point out for themselves, what is it that they have been thinking so far, which may need to be um, worked upon. And in my experience as well, I agree with all the points that you've shared, that parents might assume that they need to do everything with children for a longer period of time to be able to build a strong bond with them. But actually, everything has to be age appropriate as well, and capacity oriented as well. A child, I feel, needs to be nurtured to have their own independent self, especially around the time when they're developing their identity. And it's important to give them that space to be on their own as well. So there comes a time when we all worry, okay, if I speak less to my child now because my child needs his or her own free time, does it mean now that my relationship is impacted? I believe that relationship only goes through different stages and changes. It's not going to be exactly the same way as you had with a 2-year old when they're 10 or when they're 15. The flavor will change. That's what I think, Kavita, as well. Yeah,
Sure,
and
sure.
and and we have our own ways of having relationships with our parents and our children. You know, each one will carry its own flavor. So we have to be all right with that as well, rather than comparing ourselves with how other parent-child relationships are. I mean, as long as it
Absolutely.
fits into how we are growing together.
Absolutely. No
So
comparison.
coming to the pain point of several parents who are now preparing their child to send their school, I mean, send the child to the school for the first time. So new parents come to a phase when the child goes to school for the first time. The child and the parent, they face issues, you know, while doing so. Of course, they can be confused, baffled, but they do want this to be a happy moment. A lot of pressure on this moment. So, what do you suggest parents can do before sending their child to school for the first time?
Yeah, as you mentioned, it could be a very baffled moment for the parents out there, right? Sending a child to school for the first time is a significant transition for both the child and the parents. So it's very, very natural to have some confusion and that separation anxiety before sending child to school. So few proactive steps which parents can keep in mind and take to make this transition easier and anxiety free. It would be like, I would say, visit the school, and visit the school along with your child before that first day comes. Familiarize the child with the school, I mean ambience and the teachers around and how are the things going to be. So this will help in making the school feel more familiar and less intimidating to the child out there. Another thing, another step that parents can do is like, all the schools nowadays, they do that, parent orientation sessions are held nowadays to make parents more familiar with the policies of the schools and what the school expects from the parents and all of it. So I would advise parents, I see many parents avoiding these orientation sessions, thinking ki, what all is the school going to tell, we know everything around it. But then that's a mistake parents do. So dear parents, if you're listening to this, please make the most of it, most of these interactive sessions that schools specially host for the new parents out there. Be a part of it, listen, understand, and ask as many questions as you want from the authority of the school who's standing there and guiding you. Another is like, start talking about school to your children, Shweta. That is so very important. Have open conversation with your child about what to expect at school, and not only talk about exciting things like they will learn, they will have fun, there would be swings around and all of it, but also address any concern or worries that your child might be having. So listen very attentively to your children and reassure your child that it's normal to have anxiety. It's normal to feel a little nervous about starting school. And very important that establish a routine. Start with a routine before that first day of the school arrives with your child, right? And you can also start by practicing short separation movements with your children. It will help the child to adjust to being away from you for a certain period of time. And once you are preparing and prepping up for that first day of your child at school, involve your child into it. Take him out to the market when you're buying that school bag, that water bottle for the child, and selecting the shoes out for the child. So involve the child in all the preparation. That will also help a long way to settle that anxiety the children are having. And then please come up with your own special gestures of saying goodbyes to your children once they're out there. So the child knows that this does not mean that I'm left all alone in this world without my parents. They know after a certain period, mama and papa will come back to pick me up from the school. And so you can have such special moments and gestures with your children. So I think these points will help the parents who are prepping to send their children for first time to the school out there.
Thank you for listing these out, Kavita. So, for parents who are listening, like Kavita has said, you know, don't miss out on those orientation programs that school is hosting. You know, it prepares you and helps you prepare the child as well. So, visits to schools, planning those short separation moments, involving child into preparation for the new school, new day, bag, bottles, everything, keeping the conversation on about schools. But I believe also, I've been adding to this, remembering that the journey of child, each child is going to be a unique one. So if, let's say, the child goes to the school and day one the child does not come back too happy, that's not a failure
Of
of
course
the
not.
parent or school or the child. Every child is going to respond to change. I mean, everybody is going to be anxious about change, but definitely everybody will have their own journey, so we have to give it time as well, and give yourself time as well as parents to adjust with this change that's happening in your life, because it's a new routine that we all are settling into. um,
Right,
so
Shweta? So
yeah,
this
you want to
also
add something to
need,
this,
yeah,
Kavita?
yeah. One last point that is coming to me when you say that it's going to be a different journey for every child and every parent out there, right? So it's very important for each parent to remain calm and positive when they see their children coming back crying. As you said, it's not a failure, it's just a different experience for each child out there. So when you stay positive and when you stay calm, it rubs on to your child as well. So that's what I wanted to add.
Right. Thank you. And I think for parents watching this, if they were to look at some of the blog posts on Guinea's Planet, they will find there are two that I would want to recommend. One is selecting right school for kids. How do you select a right school for your child? And second is preparing for the first day of school. So that might help you as well to plan and prepare for it. Um, so coming to my last question, Kavita, what are some of final words or of advice or encouragement you would want to give to parents who are looking to strengthen their bonds with their children?
Okay, Shweta, so by now we have talked, discussed about a lot of such things as advice and tips. But to answer this question, I would like to reiterate on the importance of prioritizing and spending quality time with their children. Parents, please remind yourself time and again that it's not only about the quantity of time that you spend together, it's about the quality of interaction during that time that really matters. And then actively listening when your children are speaking to you. I see a lot of time like children are roaming around and they're sharing about their day and stuff, and parents are either busy on their phones or mothers are taking care of the household chores and they're like कि हाँ बोलो मैं सुन रही हूँ kind that is there. So you have to really come down to the level of the child, have an eye contact when your child is speaking to you, and that active listening participation has to be there, right? So it's like give them that undivided attention, validate the feelings, the thoughts and experiences of your child. And as I've also mentioned before, that keep that door of communication wide open between you and your children, because I'm sure everybody would agree that communication is a two-way street. It is never a one-way street. So listen actively and respond with empathy and understanding. And parents need to remember that they are the role models, as we have spoken before. Though it's a new journey for them also of being parents, I know we are also learning along the way, but still we are elder to them. We have our life experiences with us. So if they ever feel that they need guidance in this field of parenting, please do not hesitate and shy away from talking to the subject matter experts out there. So they are the people who can help you with your challenges and concerns. And also, like, they should take care of themselves. This I cannot emphasize enough. Like, please take care of your health at all the levels, physical, emotional and mental. And by doing all this, I'm sure that whatever your family ambience, culture and values is, accordingly you will build a strong and loving relationship with your children.
Thank you for those final words, Kavita. So everybody who's watching, listening, please do check out Kavita on LinkedIn. She's also tagged in this in the description when you're watching this video. Also, do check out our storybooks on guineasplanet.com, and of course, the other videos in this podcast, Growing Up with Guinea. Uh, Well, Kavita, that was a truly insightful conversation, and our listeners have received a wealth of practical tips and strategies to nurture their bond with their children. And for those of you who want to learn more about Kavita's work and the resources that she offers, you can connect with her on LinkedIn, like I said. And of course, check out other resources on Guinea's Planet channel on YouTube, as well as our website, guineasplanet.com. Before we go, let's revisit, one key takeaway from today's episode. I know there are several key takeaways, so if I point out one, it's never going to be enough. But let me share one still, which Kavita has said, that it's not about how much time you spend with the child. It's more about what you do with the child when you spend that time, and that makes a lot of difference because you are a role model here, and yes, we are growing together as parents with children, but we are still the older ones, and we have to be the role models in various ways. uh, Thank you again, Kavita, joining for joining us today, and thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in. We'll be back again with another episode dedicated to helping you navigate the joys and challenges of parenthood. Until then, take care.
पंख है उम्मीद के, ख्वाहिशों की उड़ान है, रंग है उमंग है, दिल में कई अरमान है।